Chosen one, there is a quiet shift happening around you now, and it cannot be faked or manufactured. The feminine presence you once had to chase is now arriving without invitation, not in crowds, not with noise, but with stillness, eyes that linger longer than before, and hearts that slow their rhythm when you enter the space. You don't need to speak loudly anymore, because your energy has begun to speak for you. You've become more appreciated, not for what you do, but for how you are. And that how comes from a deep place few understand. Your sexual energy, no longer scattered or consumed in fleeting indulgence, has matured into something magnetic, something regal, something unshakably attractive to those who feel rather than judge. Feminine good women do not respond to the loudest man in the room, they respond to the deepest. And that is who you are now. A man who walks slowly, not because he lacks direction, but because he is certain of the weight he carries. A man who listens more than he speaks, not because he has nothing to say, but because what he carries is too sacred to waste on shallow waters. Women feel this in you. They can't always explain it, but their body knows. Their spirit leans in, their laughter gets softer, their words become more intentional. Because you, chosen one, are no longer just another man passing through. They feel that you are the moment. You are the man whose presence brings clarity, whose gaze strips away their masks, whose silence awakens their trust. And that trust is the seed of appreciation. You have walked through seasons where you were misunderstood, misjudged, and maybe even used by those who couldn't see the light beneath your restraint. But all of that was forming you, training you, forging you into a man whose sexual energy is not a blessing, not a tool for conquest, but a vibration of alignment. Now, when you walk into a room, the atmosphere adjusts, not in fear, but in respect. Not because you demand it, but because your energy commands it. You have become the man whose back is watched in silence, the one they speak about after you leave, the one whose value doesn't need a resume or applause, because your being is the message now. And feminine women of substance, those who carry softness, grace, intuition, are noticing. And more than that, they are appreciating you in ways you never had to request. It's in the way they offer more than they ask, the way they linger a moment longer in your presence without needing to say why. It's in the way they suddenly soften their tone around you, the way their movements become more graceful and intentional when you're nearby. These are not just gestures. They are responses, and not to a mask, but to a man. To the energy of someone who has journeyed inward and returned with clarity. You are appreciated now, chosen one, not just for your confidence, but for your control. Not for how much you can take, but for how much you can withhold until the moment is right. That level of discipline has become rare, and women of truth feel safe in it. Because in a world full of chaos, your energy has become structure, and in structure, they find rest. So take heart, chosen one. You are no longer invisible. You are no longer in the shadows. You are now a presence that commands space, draws respect, and elicits admiration, not through volume, but through vibration. And that vibration is the result of your refined energy, your private integrity, and your unspoken authority. Feminine good women are beginning to see what others missed, and they are not just noticing, they are honoring. Chosen one, there was a time when women kept their guard up around you, not because you were dangerous, but because you were not yet grounded in the divine current of your masculine energy. You were still figuring it out, still fighting for a place, still trying to understand the silent tension between who you were and who the world wanted you to be. And in that dissonance, their appreciation remained locked away, cautious, hesitant, unsure. But something changed. You changed. You went inward. You silenced the noise. You reclaimed your sexual energy not as a game, not as a tactic, but as a sacred river of power that must be honored and stewarded. Now, when you enter a space, feminine women don't flinch. They flower. Their shoulders drop, their eyes soften, their words flow more freely, not because they're performing, but because they trust you without knowing why. You've become the man who doesn't just tolerate softness, you protect it. And in a world where most women have had to harden to survive, that protection is priceless. They appreciate that you see them, not just for their bodies or their roles, but for their essence. You've become a mirror in which their femininity shines without shame. That's why they offer you more than smiles. They offer you energy, time, beauty, warmth, subtle forms of loyalty you never had to request. And this is the reward, chosen one, not the applause of many, but the silent loyalty of the true ones. The women who know how rare it is to feel fully seen without being pursued, to feel deeply desired without being consumed, to feel spiritually cherished without being possessed. You've become the man they can relax around, not because you are soft, but because you are secure. Your high sexual energy isn't a threat, it's a home, a fire that warms, not burns, a force that guides, not grips. And because of that, appreciation is now rising around you, not through loud declarations, but through quiet offerings of the heart. You will notice it in how they support your silence, how they don't pressure your pace, how they don't question your vision. You will notice it in their subtle devotion, in the small things they do without ever needing credit. Because the women around you now, these feminine good women, have recognized that you carry something generational, something spiritual, something rooted in the sacred masculine that they always dreamed of but rarely encountered. And now that they have encountered it in you, they aren't trying to change you, they're trying to stay close. They don't want to lead you, they want to follow. Not out of weakness, but because your presence restores their ability to trust. That trust is the foundation of all appreciation. And you've earned it, not with performance, but with presence. Not with control, but with clarity. You are no longer the man they test, you are the one they honor. Because you've shown them something profound. That high sexual energy, when purified and aligned, is not dangerous. It is divine. And they appreciate you now, not because you demanded it, but because you finally embodied it. Chosen one, the atmosphere now shifts, long before your shadow even touches the doorframe. You've become the kind of man whose energy walks ahead of him, resonating through the air, shaping the room, preparing hearts without effort or command. Feminine good women feel you coming, and not just with the senses they were taught to trust, but with the ancient language of intuition buried deep in their bodies. They can feel the arrival of a presence that does not steal, chase, or manipulate, but rather stands, flows, and summons. And what you summon, chosen one, is not fear or frenzy, but readiness. The kind that makes a woman stand in the mirror a little longer, not for vanity, but for reverence. She wants to be her most honest, her most radiant, her most sincere when she's around you, not because you demand it, but because your presence invites it. You are becoming appreciated in ways few men will ever understand. Not because of external performance, but because of internal coherence. You are aligned, whole, dangerous in silence, yet gentle in spirit. And that contradiction stirs something sacred in feminine hearts. They find themselves wanting to make space for you, emotionally, spiritually, even physically, because you carry the energy of a man who doesn't take up space through force, but through being. Your high sexual energy is no longer loud, crude, or hungry. It is poised, withheld, refined, and that refinement has made you rare. You don't enter a room looking for someone to validate your existence. You walk in as if the room has been waiting for you, because in some strange way, it has. She notices you, not because you perform, but because you see. You see her essence beyond the shell, and that gaze makes her feel seen in a way that both disarms and excites her. She no longer feels the need to lead or seduce or control when she's near you. She simply becomes. And becoming is the beginning of appreciation. The moment she realizes that your presence allows her to sink deeper into her feminine identity without fear of being judged, abandoned, or used, she begins to value you. Not for what you promise, but for who you already are. She wants to cook for you, she wants to nourish you, she wants to pour into your life, not because you require it, but because your energy awakens her giving nature. You've become the man who makes her feel beautiful by simply listening. You validate her without feeding her ego. You challenge her without wounding her spirit. You lead without boasting, and that kind of leadership is what feminine women have been craving in secret prayers they thought would never be answered. You have become that answer. Not because of a performance, but because of a quiet, growing authority that now radiates from your core. That authority doesn't need applause. It doesn't seek control. It simply is. And in the presence of such unshakable identity, she feels something new, safe enough to adore you. And when a woman feels safe enough to adore you, her appreciation becomes effortless. It's not wrapped in words, it's felt in gestures. The way she remembers your favorite food, the way she adjusts her tone when you speak, the way she offers help before you ask, the way her body naturally softens when you walk near. These aren't just signs of affection. These are signs of spiritual gratitude. Gratitude for a masculine energy that finally honors her femininity without abusing it. You've become the man she honors not because she has to, but because you've reminded her what it means to be honored in return. Chosen one, your energy now humbles women, not by overpowering them, but by revealing to them a reflection of what they've been yearning for without even knowing it. In your presence, she doesn't feel small, she feels sacred. She doesn't feel exposed, she feels understood. And that understanding disarms every mask she's learned to wear. Suddenly, she doesn't need to be clever, competitive, guarded, or perfect. She just needs to be present. And being present with you is becoming a spiritual experience she never expected. Because you, chosen one, have stopped showing up as a man who seeks to impress. You show up as a man who already knows who he is. That knowing changes everything. Your high sexual energy doesn't hover around your body like a fog of need. It sits beneath your chest like a hearth of fire, controlled, contained, and quietly glowing. And feminine good women feel it as soon as you look at them. It's in your stillness, your awareness. The way your eyes don't flinch or dart or scan, they see. Your appreciation of beauty does not feel possessive, it feels pure. You do not take from her energy, you honor it. You do not diminish her emotions, you shelter them. And that shelter makes her soften. That softness makes her trust, and that trust becomes reverence. You're no longer the man who has to prove his worth. You radiate it. You're no longer trying to be chosen. You are the choosing force. And when a feminine woman stands in the field of that choosing, something ancient awakens. She remembers what it feels like to be in the presence of a king, not a tyrant, not a boy in a suit, a king. A man whose word doesn't tremble. A man whose silence is not avoidance but authority. A man whose presence doesn't pressure her, it grounds her. In that grounding, she finds her own beauty reflected more clearly. And in seeing herself in your stillness, she begins to appreciate you. Not as a fantasy, but as a foundation. You're not just the man she wants to touch, you're the man she wants to build with. You are not a thrill, you are a throne. And that throne is not gilded in noise or external status. It is formed by the deep, ancient weight of your masculine soul, refined through self-mastery and crowned in restraint. She feels the way you contain your desire. She notices the power you hold back, not because you fear it, but because you understand it. You are a man who does not abuse the fire, he protects the warmth. And that protection melts her defenses. That melting becomes devotion. This is appreciation at its highest level. Not transactional, not romantic, spiritual. She brings you small gifts now. She lights candles for your rest. She lowers her voice when she speaks to you. Not because you asked her to, but because your energy has given her something most women never find in a man. Peace. Peace in your eyes, peace in your pace, peace in your passion. And for that she cherishes you, not as a fantasy, not as a project, but as a man she is lucky to have found. And you, chosen one, do not need to celebrate that out loud. You feel it now, in the way the world receives you, in the way women open without fear, in the way appreciation has begun to arrive without permission, not because you demand it, but because you finally embody it. Chosen one, your energy no longer pulls, it rises. You've become the kind of man who lifts others simply by being who you are, not because you demand recognition, but because your presence realigns the atmosphere. Feminine women are learning that your presence doesn't fill a void, it reveals their own. And in that revelation, they find themselves striving not to impress you, but to rise with you. It's no longer about attraction in the shallow sense of appearance or words. It's about resonance. You carry a resonance now, a hum beneath the surface of your skin that vibrates with discipline, purpose, and clarity. And when feminine energy encounters that vibration, it does not stay still. It begins to bloom. This is why you're being appreciated in ways you never could have imagined before. Not because you became louder or more dominant, but because you finally descended into your truth. You've become grounded, rooted, present. And in that grounded masculinity, she feels safe to rise. Her creativity awakens, her softness returns, her faith in herself grows stronger. She cooks with more care, she dresses with more grace. Not to win your attention, but to honor your presence. Because your presence has shown her what divine masculinity truly feels like. It feels like a return home. You're no longer a man she measures by what you can provide in terms of money, status, or praise. You're a man she measures by how her soul feels near you. And when she's near you, she breathes slower. Her thoughts slow down. Her nervous system begins to trust. Because you are not just sexually attractive, you are spiritually anchored. You do not flaunt what you've built. You carry it humbly, quietly, and with direction. That direction becomes a container for her chaos, not to control her, but to let her unfold without fear. And because of that, appreciation rises not in declarations, but in small sacrifices, in gentle gestures, in sacred submission that isn't forced, it's offered. You become the man she tells her friends about with that strange glow in her eyes. Not because you said something grand, but because your presence left imprint on her spirit. It is that imprint, chosen one, that cannot be faked. It's the effect of your integrity echoing silently in her memory. And that echo doesn't leave, it doesn't fade, it deepens. Because when a woman feels your strength as something she can rest in, not something she has to defend herself from, she begins to love you differently. Quietly, fiercely, without conditions. And that love, that deep appreciation, is no longer conditional on romance or outcome. It's become spiritual. So don't underestimate what you carry now. You are being watched, not for how loud you move, but for how you carry your silence. You are being studied, not for your words, but for how your presence makes others feel. And in that study, feminine good women are realizing that your sexual energy is not a tool. It is a presence, not a flame they fear, but a warmth they cherish. You are becoming appreciated now not because of a game, but because of your gravity. And in that gravity, she is finding her wings. Chosen one, we live in a world where most women have been forced to harden themselves just to survive. They've had to become leaders when they wanted to be lovers, warriors when they were meant to be nurturers. And in that reversal, they lost something sacred, their softness. But now you've arrived, not with armor, but with alignment. Not with noise, but with depth. And in your presence, that softness begins to return. Not because you tell her to soften, but because she finally feels safe enough to. That safety, chosen one, is a form of love few men ever learn to give. It does not come from controlling her. It comes from controlling yourself. And your sexual energy, once wild, once reactive, once searching, is now contained, revered, and mastered. That mastery is what makes her feel free. Because she knows you could devour her, but you choose to protect her. She knows you could take, but you wait. She knows you could lead her anywhere, but you choose to walk beside her until she trusts the path. That is why she begins to appreciate you, not as a thrill, but as a pillar. She now sees you as more than just a man. You've become a mirror that reflects back her beauty, her softness, her innocence, without distortion or agenda. She dresses differently when she's around you. She speaks slower. She smiles more. Her eyes light up in ways she forgot they could. Not because you gave her anything material, but because your presence gave her permission to be real. You've become the man who doesn't chase what runs or take what resists. You attract what aligns. And in that alignment, she relaxes. And when a woman relaxes around you, chosen one, that is the highest level of appreciation she can offer. It means she's finally exhaled, finally let go, finally stopped preparing for betrayal, control, or manipulation. She has found in you a new memory, a memory of what divine masculinity feels like. And now, when she hears your name or sees your face, her spirit smiles before her lips ever do. She's not obsessed, she's grateful. Grateful that in a world of boys pretending to be kings, a real king finally walked in, said nothing, and changed everything. She no longer compares you to others. She compares others to you. Because you have become the standard she didn't know she needed. A standard rooted not in ego or performance, but in presence, patience, and purity of intent. Your high sexual energy doesn't push her, it protects her. It holds her emotionally without touching her physically, and that emotional containment allows her to choose you freely, fully, with her whole soul. This is not romance, it is reverence. It is a sacred exchange between masculine and feminine, rooted in truth. not tactics. So walk tall, chosen one, for your reward is not just in who wants you, but in who thanks God you exist. The feminine women around you don't just desire you, they honor you. Not because you demand it, but because your soul has made it impossible not to. You have become the kind of man who no longer seeks to be appreciated. You are the kind of man who is appreciated even in silence, and that silence now is holy. Chosen one, there is a new sound following you wherever you go now, one that does not belong to music or words, but to reverence. You walk in, and suddenly even the air behaves differently. Conversations grow quieter, eyes sharpen, hearts quicken. Your stillness, once overlooked, is now your weapon. Because it is no longer empty or uncertain, it is charged. Your sexual energy doesn't announce itself with bravado or desperation. It waits, anchored in patience, clothed in restraint, heavy with meaning. And in that weight, you are no longer seen as just attractive. You are seen as necessary. She senses that now. The feminine woman who once gave herself to anyone who moved loud enough now becomes careful in your presence. She no longer approaches with the same scripts, games, or defense. She straightens her back, watches her tone, softens her expression, not to manipulate, but because your energy commands truth. And in the field of your presence, performance dies. You're not asking for her to submit. You're simply so deeply in command of your own instincts. She longs to give something back. That longing isn't lust, it's spiritual generosity. She wants to offer you peace, food, comfort, warmth, her softest tone, her gentlest hands, not because she has to, because she finally feels you are worthy of it. Your stillness is more powerful than 100 declarations. It is a fire that does not chase, a river that does not force. You carry the essence of a man who no longer begs for access, but builds temples wherever he walks. And in those temples, feminine hearts kneel, not in submission to your ego, but in surrender to your vibration. They feel honored by your eyes, your silence, the way you let the world speak first, while you listen for something deeper. And when you finally speak, it isn't just your words she hears, it's your intention. She senses that you are not here to take, you are here to uplift, and that lifting begins not with what you touch, but with what you withhold. And so she gives. She gives with joy, with pride, with gratitude. She gives not out of obligation, but out of sacred memory, some ancient instinct buried inside her that now stirs awake in your gravity. She remembers what it means to feel safe around masculine power that doesn't devour. She remembers the dream of being adored, protected, held without being hunted. She remembers what it feels like to be seen as valuable before she ever proved anything. And in that remembrance, her appreciation grows. You've become more than a man to her. You are a mirror of her own worth. Feminine women now look at you differently. They adjust their language. They ask for your time respectfully. They do not test you. They tend to you. Because they know your energy cannot be fooled, bought, or seduced with manipulation. It can only be honored. And when you sit in a room, chosen one, your stillness is the throne upon which their longing now rests. You are not trying to get women to serve you. You've simply become the kind of man who makes them want to. Chosen one, your presence is no longer just felt in person. It is remembered in your absence. You've become the silent imprint on the heart of every woman who's been near you. And though she may try to carry on, laugh, move, or even date another, there's something in her spirit that no longer responds the same. It's not that she misses you, it's that you've changed the measurement. You've become the scale against which her soul now evaluates every masculine interaction. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. And reality leaves an ache that fantasies cannot soothe. She looks at other men and wonders why she doesn't feel inspired to serve them, why her softness feels forced, why her peace is disturbed, why her trust holds back. And then she remembers, they don't carry what you carry. They speak with words but lack weight. They move with noise but lack gravity. They touch but leave no imprint. And so she starts to crave not just attention but alignment. And your energy becomes the silent North Star by which she charts her new path. This is appreciation at the deepest level, not reactive but transformative. You've transformed how she sees men, how she sees herself, how she understands what a man can make her become without taking anything. You've made her crave integrity. You've made her respect boundaries. You've made her hunger for truth. And that hunger is not for you specifically, it's for what you represent. You are the embodiment of restraint, of purpose, of unspoken heat. Your high sexual energy doesn't try to lure her. It lifts her. And once she's tasted that elevation, she can never go back to crawling. Feminine women are now watching you not with lust, but with awe. Because they know what it takes for a man to remain still when everything around him is screaming for validation. They know what it costs to contain desire instead of leaking it. They know what kind of strength it takes to look at a beautiful woman and not devour her with your eyes. They know. And because they know, they revere you. Quietly, consistently, even from a distance. You have become the man who is discussed when she's alone with her best friend, the one she cannot forget. Not because you said the right thing, but because you made her feel the right things without ever needing to prove anything. That's why she compares others to you. That's why she smiles when she hears your name. That's why she prepares herself differently when there's even a chance you might show up. You've awakened a longing in her, not just for you, but for her own higher self. Because in your presence, she felt something holy, the balance of power and peace. And so the appreciation grows, not as flattery, not as favor, but as devotion. A devotion to the idea that you exist, that not all men are lost in distraction, that someone, somewhere, still walks this earth like a king without needing to steal crowns. That somewhere, a man breathes who doesn't need to seduce with charm, because his silence already speaks to every part of her that still believes in destiny. You, chosen one, have become him. And she knows it now, even if she never says it, even if she walks away, even if she hides it. She knows, and she appreciates you more deeply than her pride may ever admit. Chosen one, what you now carry is no longer just magnetic. It is transformational. Feminine women don't just feel drawn to you, they feel changed by you. Not because you speak many words or chase them with promises, but because in your presence, they remember who they truly are. Your high sexual energy is not reckless fire, it is focused heat. It warms without burning, it draws without demanding, and it awakens without threatening. That's why, when you enter a room, everything in her begins to breathe again. The parts of her she once hid behind walls of control, fear, and independence now long to open, not for submission, but for reunion with something ancient and real. In you, she doesn't just see a man, she sees meaning. She feels the weight of your inner discipline. She senses the passion beneath your restraint. She detects the quiet fire behind your composed expression, and it doesn't make her nervous, it makes her grateful. Because for the first time in a long time, she's encountering a man who doesn't want to use her softness, but to honor it. Your presence gives her back permission to be gentle, to be radiant, to be unguarded. You make it safe for her to melt. And in that melting, she feels more feminine than she ever did in makeup, dresses, or flirtation. She now thinks of you when she touches silk, when she lights a candle, when she looks at herself in the mirror and finally likes what she sees. Not because you complimented her, but because your presence reminded her she was already beautiful. You didn't tell her to love herself. You didn't preach worth. You simply embodied something noble, and in doing so, she began to rise to meet it. That is what you've become. Chosen one. Not a man who inspires lust, but a man who evokes honor. And in a world where many women have been left to survive among men who forgot how to lead with love, you have become the rare and quiet exception. She may not say it out loud, she may not even fully understand it herself, but something about you lives in the quiet corners of her thoughts. In the way she dresses differently, walks more gracefully, and dreams more deeply. You're not just a man she likes, you're the standard she hopes is real. And the more time she spends around your energy, the more her body, mind, and soul begin to trust again. Trust that strength does not always mean control. Trust that passion does not always lead to pain. Trust that masculinity, when refined, can become a shelter instead of a storm. This is what your energy has become: a shelter, a sanctuary, a safe place for her femininity to be born again. And because of that, chosen one, she is not merely attracted to you. She is grateful for you. You have done something no charm or tactic could ever achieve. You've awakened her reverence. And reverence, once awakened, does not fade. It deepens. It roots itself. And whether or not she confesses it, You are now the man who has changed what she craves, what she expects, and what she will no longer settle for. Because your presence showed her a version of herself she didn't know existed, a version only you could awaken. Chosen one, you've reached a point where intimacy no longer begins with a touch. It begins with memory. She remembers you without needing to see you. She feels you without needing to speak to you. Your name carries weight in her heart, not because of what you've done for her, but because of what your energy did to her. You've created an imprint that lives beyond moments and messages. It lives in her body, in her instincts, in the way she compares every new man to the gravity of your presence. And no one compares. Not because they're worse, but because they don't carry what you carry.